So if you guys didn't know, I originally started my channel making videos on a game called Survive the Night. It was a survival horror game similar to Forsaken and Pillar Chase 2, and I did this for about 2 to 3 years. And during this time, I became friends with people from the community, the developers, and loads of other people. I have an incredibly strong attachment to this game and our team as a whole, so when I saw that Survive the Night was starting to die down in players, I was honestly a little sad, but I would never leave this community as I love it quite a lot. Though the game used to be extremely popular, it has declined heavily in players, and I just think it's because of content bloat and the game being a few years old, so it's bound to be repetitive. Luckily, they have announced that they are making a second version of the game, Survive the Night 2, and with that, they are going to be heavily revamping the game and basically remaking it entirely. Since Survive the Night 2 was announced, Rack, who if you don't know is one of the main developers of Survive the Night, said a lot of gears were going to be removed or reworked entirely for Survive the Night 2. And this video today is just me giving my opinions on all 38 gears in a game and telling you guys if they should stay in the game, be reworked, or be deleted entirely for Survive the Night 2. So I hope you enjoy the video. Before I start the video off though, I will have to say what I say in this video isn't final. I'm not a developer, I'm not any of that. I'm just giving my opinions on what gear should stay, should be reworked, or should just be deleted entirely. So yeah, this video will likely be pretty lengthy, so I have timestamps for when I go over each different gear, so use that if you need to. Alright, right off the bat, the first gear we will be going over is the first gear you get in the game, which is Tracker. Tracker has honestly been a A-tier gear ever since launch, and it's only gotten better over time, as it's gotten a few buffs a while back, making it give you a breathing bonus whenever the tracker was on. It's an extremely good gear for people starting off the game, and it's just a good gear concept in general. Personally, for me, I would say Tracker should stay in a game, and the only thing I would really change about it is just removing the breathing bonus it gets, since Survive the Night 2 is meant to be simpler. I assume, and the base gear is already incredibly strong, so I just don't really see a reason for it to have the breathing bonus. The next gear is Audio Player, and this was one of the original gears at launch, and though people often say it's useless and hardly ever use it, I would say it's an extremely good gear in matches, especially against experienced players. It has gotten some buffs and some nerfs over time, but overall, like with Tracker, it's an extremely good gear concept, and I think it should stay in the game. The only thing I would say really needs removing is the breathing bonus, because like with Tracker, it's already an extremely good gear. The breathing bonus is just unnecessary. Camera is a really simple and straightforward gear that I don't really think needs to be deleted for Survive the Night 2, but I do think it needs some changes. Since Survive the Night 2 is headed in a way that looping won't really be a thing, I think the blind and the slow durations should be reduced by a few seconds, and the speed boost you get when you use camera should also be removed. Since the game will actually be based around being a hide and seek game, I would expect you to shoot the camera and go hide somewhere or run off as quick as you can with the time the slasher is blinded. So yeah, I think it should stay in the game. Like, why not? It's a really good gear. Trap is really unique and map dependent, but I feel like it should really stay in the game. Again, like with camera, I would want to keep it in the game, but I would also like to make a few changes to it. The change I really want to make is just make it a 1.0 trap. The 1.0 trap was essentially just a long cooldown, but it had a really good stagger. This would make trap users not be able to go around in circles 24/7 laying traps everywhere, and would instead make you think about where you want to place your traps if the slasher comes this way or if the slasher comes that way. And it can also help other survivors. I think it would I would want it to be more like a strategic type of gear where you have to think where you want to place it instead of just spamming it wherever the slasher goes, which is what current trap does. And right now, honestly, I feel like it's kind of annoying, but if they make it like the 1.0 trap, I feel like it can be a really solid gear. I really love keys as a gear, as I abused it heavily back in 1.0 since doors weren't breakable back then, and it's on my top 3 favorite gears in the entire game, but sadly, I think it should just be deleted from the game. Since Survive the Night 2 plans to heavily nerf looping, doors will probably be way fewer in maps and slower, and I kinda assume more clunky. I just feel like keys would have no purpose in Survive the Night 2. Sure, it could save you in some situations, but it would still be annoying for slashers to go against, and like I said before, looping is getting heavily nerfed. I love this gear to death, but I just don't see a place for it in Survive the Night 2. I just don't think it has a future there. Ghillie is another straightforward gear, and it's incredibly simple. Activate the gear, which makes your breathing go completely silent, go hide in a corner or locker, rinse and repeat. It's an incredibly good gear, especially for a hide and seek game, which is why I think it should stay in a game. But I also think it should be tweaked a little bit. Since this is a hide and seek game focused around breathing, this gear's cooldown should be increased by a decent amount. This type of gear is still incredibly overpowered in the current Survive the Night and will probably still be overpowered in Survive the Night 2. So in order to make it not be too overpowered, I would just increase the cooldown so you can't spam it 24/7 and make it where the slasher can't find you at all. But I still think this game really needs to be in Survive the Night 2. Night vision goggles is perfect where it's at right now. Literally nothing should be changed about it except removing the breathing bonus it gets, but that's it. It's an incredibly good base gear and useful in almost all maps except indoor maps, so I would keep this and Survive the Night 2. It's just such a good gear to use. Compass I feel like should be removed. Like sure, it's a good gear for farming I guess, but it just wastes a gear slot when you can easily find relics around the map. Yeah, I just don't think it should carry over to Survive the Night 2. There's nothing much to it other than finding 10 relics and then it being useless the entire match. Motion sensor is my #1 favorite gear of all time. I just really love its playstyle and what it does. I think it's super unique. Bias aside, I still think motion sensor would be an extremely good gear to add into Survive the Night 2, but again with a few tweaks. I would change motion sensor to be how it was when it first launched, which was to make the sensor placement permanent but have an extremely long cooldown. Doing this would be extremely beneficial to the entire Survivor team, and it would make it easier to use and a lot less spammy for both Survivor and Slasher gameplay. So my vote is to keep it in the game, but make the changes to it so it can be easier to use and not be as annoying for both sides having motion sensors constantly beep everywhere. CCTV is a tricky one because it's another one of my favorite gears, but it's a lot like audio player. And what I mean by that is people say it sucks and don't use it often, but it's extremely good if you know how to use it correctly. I think it's just honestly one of the only gears in Survive the Night that actually takes some skill to use, so yeah. My vote would be to keep it in the game, but maybe remove the huge breathing bonus it gets, or you could possibly rework it to have 2 to 3 cameras, but have a 10-second cooldown of how often you can use it, which could be an interesting concept and make it more engaging as it would be another strategy type of gear. I have mixed feelings for Barricade/Hammer. I think it's a really unique and cool gear, but to me, it honestly just feels like another version of Trap, but this time, instead of a stagger, you just break it down with your attacks. Currently, it's incredibly annoying to deal with in the current Survive the Night, and I feel like it would still be incredibly annoying to go against in Survive the Night 2. I like the Barricade gear, but I just feel like it's a Trap reskin and it just feels like it wouldn't fit in Survive the Night 2 at all. So sadly, I would vote to delete it. Now this might be a hot take, but I really feel like shields should stay in the game. It could use a little tweaking as you just remove the speed boost you get when it breaks and increase the cooldown a bit, but other than those changes, it's still incredibly good. It's a solid gear that isn't overpowered or too annoying to deal with if the changes get implemented. And there isn't really any other gears that play similar to it other than the Blacklight shield, so I would say it's a really good gear to add on to Survive the Night 2, so why not? Flare is another one of my favorite gears again, but it kinda just plays like Trap and Barbed Wire, so it's not really unique and it can be incredibly annoying at times. Sadly, I don't really see it going into Survive the Night 2 without it being too close to another gear or it being too annoying. So I would sadly have to vote for it to be deleted from the game. I just don't really see a place for it for Survive the Night 2, sadly. This next choice might shock a lot of people, but honestly, I feel like Sonar should stay. It's not too close to tracker or motion sensor, and it only reveals the location of the slasher to you. I literally think you can just copy and paste this gear onto Survive the Night 2 and it would be golden. My choice would be to bring this gear into Survive the Night 2 and literally just copy and paste it and you're done. Next is Backpack, and do I really even need to explain this one? It's a permanent ghillie you play in the corner of the map, and since lockers and other hiding spots will be added, I just see no reason for this gear to stay. So obviously I would vote to delete it, just get rid of it, it serves no purpose. This next choice might be another hot take, but honestly I really think bandages should stay in the game. But I feel like this should be the only healing related thing that should be able to be in the game, as it can lead to being overpowered if there's multiple healing things. There isn't much I would change about it, honestly, maybe just an increase of the cooldown a tiny bit, but that's it. You could probably just import it directly into Survive the Night 2 and increase the cooldown a little bit. Metal Detector is a no-brainer, just delete it, nobody uses it and nobody will miss it except for this guy. Supply Bag is honestly, again, another no-brainer. Since looping is heavily getting nerfed, I just see no reason to keep this gear in the game, as it's only used for looping gears and most of those will either be nerfed or removed. I think it's honestly just a waste of a gear slot and I would vote for it to be deleted. I can't see a place where it fits into Survive the Night 2 like at all. Deep Night Goggles is honestly just a cheap version of night vision goggles that you only use for the speed bonus. Nobody uses it to see the ghosts, they just use it to gain speed, it just serves no purpose. And it's a waste of a gear slot. It would be a miracle if this gear isn't deleted. Obviously, delete this gear, it's useless. Wrench is another one of my favorite gears, but it pains me to say this. I just really don't see Wrench coming into Survive the Night 2. It's just not really a good gear to be in Survive the Night 2 in general. And door looping will be heavily nerfed, so yeah. As much as I love this gear and how much you can spam heal doors, it would just be too overpowered to add in. Sadly, I don't think this should or will come into Survive the Night 2. And currently, Barbed Wire is incredibly overpowered no matter what you do. It's just another version of Trap and Barricade that is 100 times more annoying than both combined. I have a deep hatred for this gear and I don't think it should return at all. Just delete this gear entirely. It's too overpowered and would still be incredibly annoying even if you adjust it into Survive the Night 2. No matter what you do, this gear will always be annoying, so just toss it to the side and get rid of it. This next choice might be shocking, but I don't think Bat should come in Survive the Night 2. Don't get me wrong, I love this gear and it's fun to play, but like, if camera and scrap shield stay, I just think it will be a weaker version of both of those gears. I just don't see a reason to add it in Survive the Night 2, even if you reworked it. Sadly, my vote is to just delete the gear. I think scrap shield would be a much better replacement. Just like with Wrench, Toolkit is fun to abuse and use, but since door looping will be getting nuked, I don't see a place for it in Survive the Night 2. I just think it should be deleted. There's nothing you can really do to make it fit into Survive the Night 2, just like with Wrench. Just toss it to the side and get rid of it. The next gear is Loudspeaker, and it's honestly not really used, and though it can be useful in some situations, it's just not a gear worth using a gear slot for in Survive the Night 2 in my opinion. It's an easy gear to use, and some slashers fall for it and some don't, but it's just a waste when you could have something different. I just really don't see the point in keeping it for Survive the Night 2. It's an easy delete and I'm pretty sure nobody except the 2 Loudspeaker fans will miss it, so rest in peace. If Sonar, Tracker, and Motion Sensor get added to Survive the Night 2, I don't see any reason to add Spydrone in it. And it's honestly kind of overpowered in a power creeped Sonar and Tracker in some ways, so I don't think it should be added at all. I would be shocked if Rack decides to keep Spydrone for Survive the Night 2, but I don't really think he will, and my overall vote is to delete Spydrone entirely. Wall light is just like Loudspeaker. It can be useful in some situations, but it's overall not worth to use a gear slot for. And come on, let's be honest. Nobody ever uses it except to get the speed boost to stack it with another speed perk. Like with Loudspeaker, it's just honestly an easy delete. Nobody really uses it anyway. For first aid, I think it shouldn't be added at all. It's so overpowered currently, and if you even try to nerf the healing or the cooldown, it would still be overpowered just because it heals everyone around you and multiple people can use it. I just don't think it should exist in Survive the Night 2, because if it will, I can already see it become incredibly annoying to deal with. So my vote is just to delete it entirely. I don't think it should come to Survive the Night 2. I think it would be too annoying. Even if you make it trash, it's still just going to become annoying. And I'm just going to get all of this out the way at once. I think every single Blacklight gear needs to go. Blacklight baton, Blacklight mount, Blacklight shield, Blacklight burst, Blacklight or gas can, etc. Nearly all the Blacklight gears are downgraded versions of previous existing gears, and the Blacklight effect as a whole is just so unfun to play against a slasher. Nobody likes not being able to use your abilities, so yeah. They are a waste of gear slots, and I think Blacklight should not return in Survive the Night 2 at all. Just delete everything Blacklight and leave that in old Survive the Night to rot. The same applies to Rebreather. It's just a worse version of Ghillie. It's a waste to another gear slot. I just think it needs to be deleted entirely, and there isn't much to be said about it. Powerdrill is a weird one, and I know I'm gonna get hate for this. Maybe if it goes under some like heavy reworks, it can become useful maybe, but if it's anything similar to what we currently have in the current Survive the Night Powerdrill, I would just toss it. I don't know what would happen to Powerdrill, but if I had to guess, I feel like it would be deleted because it technically falls under the category of a looping gear, but it sucks at its job, so it would just be a waste of a gear slot to keep for Survive the Night 2. The same applies with A.I.L.A beacon. It literally has no use whatsoever. It's a terrible gear in general, and literally there's no reason to keep this gear for Survive the Night 2. Just toss it in the trash with Rebreather. Deep Night Rig is an interesting one because I can see what they were trying to go for, but like honestly, I think it would be a good gear for Survive the Night 2. Just like the gear making you invincible for a few seconds can actually be really good, especially since Survive the Night 2 is heading for a more hide and seek direction. This may be shocking, but I feel like this gear should come to Survive the Night 2. I really like Longbow and it's unique, but honestly, it is really incredibly annoying to go against, even if it's just one person, and even if you nerf it, it's still going to be annoying to go against. I feel like it shouldn't be added to Survive the Night 2 at all. It would just be too annoying no matter what you do, and it would be extremely out of place. My vote is just to get rid of it, just delete it, don't worry about it. The final and last gear we will be going over for this video is the Flamethrower. Flamethrower counts as a Blacklight gear, but it is such an annoying gear, I have to talk about it. Everything about this gear is annoying. The Blacklight burn, the slow, the fuel it has, the amount of time it takes to catch up to one person using it, it's all annoying. This better not come back to Survive the Night 2, and it's just annoying in all aspects. My vote is obviously to delete this gear for Survive the Night 2, and please Rack, do not make anything like this again. This gear is just, don't ever. Excuse a little rant there, but basically that's the end of the video. I made a tier list and here it is. Basically, these are what the gears should stay, these are the gears that should be reworked, and these are the gears I think should be deleted. Keep in mind, I am not a developer, so what I said in this video is not official. It's not official, so don't take my word for it. These are just my opinions and I wanted to express my opinions. So yeah, let me know in the comments your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. Anyway, this was kind of a lengthy video, so I'm just gonna end it here. See ya.